In the town of Harvest, a young man wakes up suddenly. He's distressed. He doesn't remember anything or recognize his surroundings. He's got the amnesia. He heads out into his house to discover a few things. 1. His name's Steve.
So that's my name. Steve.
2. It appears to be the year 1958.
Come to think of it, this whole place looks totally retro.
3. He has a little brother named Hank who loves to watch cowboys on the telly. 4. He has a mum.
I'm your mother.
She has an affinity for baking cookies and doesn't believe that Steve has amnesia.
I've lost my memory. Do you believe me?
You always were a kidder, Steve.
5. His father's locked away in a room following a fight with his mom.
He and Mom went at it last night pretty hard. He stayed in bed. I saw what she did to him. It was pretty bad.
Eventually, Steve also discovers that he's set to marry a girl next door, Stephanie Poston.
The wedding's in 2 weeks.
What?
So Steve heads next door to find Stephanie and meet her family. He first meets Mr. Poston, who is pretty great, to be honest.
Everyone needs at least 3 servings of red meat a day. And anyone who says otherwise is a commie.
He talks about meat all the time in way too much detail.
My meat!
Steve then meets Mrs. Poston, who looks exactly like his own mom, but with a wig on.
You're both standing around baking cookies. Same kind of dress. Same pearls. So bizarre.
Steve finally spots Stephanie through a peephole in the bathroom wall. That's not so good. Mr. Poston put it there. He's just keeping an eye on her, make sure she's not up to doing drugs. Talking to Stephanie, Steve discovers that she too is suffering from amnesia.
I don't remember anything. How many times do I have to say it?
The mystery deepens. Stephanie tells Steve that she isn't allowed to leave her bedroom until the wedding. They also discuss the strange town of Harvest and the building at the center of the town called the Lodge.
Everything in Harvest seems to revolve around this damned lodge.
The Lodge serves as the headquarters for the Order of the Harvest Moon. Some sort of crazy cult thing. Steve decides to join that crazy cult, as it's the only way to escape from the creepy town of Harvest.
That's probably the worst thing you could do.
Don't do it, Steve.
Am I gonna do it? Yes. When am I gonna do it? Don't know. Could be tomorrow.
Steve goes there, and he meets the Sergeant-at-Arms. To enter the Lodge, he must be initiated into the Order.
Only initiates may enter the Hall of the Order of the Harvest Moon.
Did you say something?
Before being initiated, Steve has to get an application form from Boyle, who works at the town's post office. It turns out that Boyle is secretly being blackmailed by the town's sheriff for burning down the town's newspaper building. He feared that it was running the post office out of business. I don't know why they deliver the mail. It's a newspaper. Different things. In exchange for the application form, Boyle gets Steve to steal the evidence of his crime from the police station. The police station is currently being manned by Deputy Sheriff Loomis, who keeps asking Steve to get him a porno magazine. So Steve gets the creepy old dude his porno mag, and Loomis just can't wait to get busy.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Excuse me, kiddo. I gotta go check the jail first.
Stop it!
This allows Steve to steal the evidence that he needs. Meanwhile, Loomis is caught rustling his jimmies by the chief. You shouldn't be doing that, he says. Steve is then able to get his application form from Boyle. And with that, the first day of the game concludes with a cutscene of Steve taking off his shirt. Oh my. The next day, Steve takes his application form to the Lodge. The Sergeant-at-Arms tells Steve that if he wants to join, he's gonna have to pull off some epic pranks.
Minor pranks, really.
The first one is to scratch a car belonging to Mr. Johnson. The car is Mr. Johnson's pride and joy, and if he's caught harming it, Steve would surely be murdered.
Heck of an automobile, isn't she? Damn shame I have to sit out here and watch over her all the time. But if I didn't, those stupid kids might scratch her up playing ball.
At nightfall, Steve sneaks into the sewers for some reason, instead of just going straight to the car, and up into Mr. Johnson's garage, and he scratches the hell out of it. Having succeeded with this epic prank, he goes home at the end of the day, and once again, takes off his shirt. Steve's next task is to steal a bolt of fabric from the firemen. Harvest Fire Department spends all of their time painting portraits of half-naked men.
So what if we're drawing a nude man?
Steve heads to the firehouse and talks to one of the male models.
Jeez, what are you doing here?
Just standing here, waiting to be drawn.
He helps Steve find a bolt of fabric.
All right.
And that's about it. And so that's the end of the third day, but don't worry, he takes off his shirt again.
Keep your shirt on!
No! The next day, Steve brings the bolt of fabric to the Sergeant-at-Arms.
Your next assignment is to break into the tonsorial establishment of Mr. Pastorelli and abscond with his prized barber's pole.
Steve once again heads out in the dead of night. He breaks into the barber shop with a fire axe and dismantles the wires that hold down the barber pole. You'll never guess what's going to happen next. He's going to go home, he's going to take off his shirt.
This needs to stop.
Anyway, next morning, Steve talks to his mum, who's been baking cookies.
Pastorelli touched some live wires that the thief left lying around and was electrocuted. Well, that darn foreigner got what he deserved, if you ask me.
So Steve goes to see Stephanie, and she says,
I want you. Make love to me.
So Steve does just that. Uh-oh. You forgot about the peephole in the bathroom.
Hey, Vsauce! Michael here.
Steve, are you coming back to bed? No, I've got to go to the lodge. So he heads down there, and the Sergeant-at-Arms gives him his last epic prank.
Your final assignment is to set a fire in DNA's diner.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Once again, in the dead of night, Steve heads to the DNA diner. He turns on the gas stove and lights a match, burning the place to the ground. Nice job. Anyway, pop quiz time. What happens next? Does he A. take off his shirt, B. take off his shirt, C. remove his torso attire, or D. all of the above? Actually, it's E. He takes off his shirt. Steve heads to the burnt husk of the DNA diner to discover that the destruction of the diner has driven the owner to kill herself and her child.
I've tried so hard to keep on fighting.
Did I never treat you right?
This diner he left us was all we had.
I need to know what I've done wrong.
Not Karen and I can't go on.
You can write it in a letter.
I've got to be stronger than this before.
Way to go, Steve. Time to go check up on Stephanie. She has become more depressed. Steve says, "What can I do to comfort you?" And she says the only remedy is some vitamin D.
Do it to me. Now.
They ignore the peephole once more.
You freaking pricks! When will you learn?
Steve then tells Stephanie all about the deadly prank challenges in order to join Team 10, and she is terribly upset.
That doesn't change the fact that you killed him. This initiation killed him.
Oh look, Steve's back at the lodge. He speaks to the Sergeant-at-Arms, and it turns out that all of these tasks weren't in fact an initiation at all. They were just some errands that he needed to run.
Got him!
And it was all a test to see whether or not he would be worthy. Well, just...
An invitation shall be forthcoming.
How I recognize the sign.
You will know when you receive the invitation. Bring it here, and your initiation shall begin.
It turns out the sign is finding a disembodied skull and spinal cord on Stephanie's bed. No one can be really sure if the remains belong to Stephanie, but it kind of looks like it.
All in all, I'd say this was death by natural causes.
Natural causes?
You can't live without a spinal cord, son.
Conveniently, the invitation to the club is right next to this whole mess. Just smush that over. Steve brings this invitation to the Sergeant-at-Arms, but psych, it's not actually an invitation. The spinal cord is the invitation, of course. So Steve has to break into Stephanie's tomb and inexplicably fight a dog and retrieve the spinal cord and bring it back to the lodge. Yoink! Finally, Steve can get into the lodge. To get through it, he'll need this ceremonial dagger, which the Sergeant-at-Arms gives to him. Thanks, you're welcome. But where is Stephanie, though? Ooh, maybe you'll find your answers on the second floor. We must save Stephanie. First floor. Where's the second? Ah, it's hidden. Alright, so he falls through a trapdoor. It's big, icky, and gross, and we're gonna need some paper towels. Steve then has to fight a giant bug and pop a massive eyeball. Decrepit bar time. Beer time. But then that beer summons an evil double of Steve, which he has to kill. Kitchen time. Steve then enters a kitchen where the chef is cooking up parts of dismembered human body parts. Steve takes a few chunks in case they'll come in handy later. As you do, cloakroom time. Steve asks an attendant to help him get some clean clothes. Steve then kills the cloakroom attendant for no reason. Oh look, those human body parts came in handy. Steve uses them to distract a sewer monster, allowing him to cross the bridge. Steve then has to defeat a killer plant. He finds ropes he can climb to the second floor. Hooray! Art time. Steve ends up in the art museum. Then the statue comes to life and Steve has to kill him. In the next room, Boyle, our favorite postman / arsonist, is there.
When a young man is courting a young woman,
He wins for her a Cupid doll. Return here with a prize if you would seek your lady.
Okay.
Chess time. Steve fights the chess master and finds a key in his head that's just been blown to pieces like a ripe melon. Clown time. He's kinda cute, and he has the doll. Steve takes the doll back to Boyle, who tells them that Stephanie is actually on the 3rd floor. You fucking... Alright, it's time for the 3rd floor. First up is the Temple of the Mystery of Abstinence. What? You kill a fat man. Next room, a mum is being eaten by her kids. Kill the kids. Next room, no fighting. Oh my god, when does this end? The next temple is the Mystery of the Flesh, and in there is Mr. Potsdam. Oh, that's kind of a twist. Channeling that Steve energy, Mr. Potsdam takes off his shirt and starts attacking Steve. He is killed. Next, the Temple of Lust, where Steve gets propositioned by some sex workers. Steve does the polite thing and declines by killing one of them, and oh god, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Eventually, Steve makes it to the inner sanctum.
Welcome to the inner sanctum, big guy.
Where he meets with the Grand Muckety Muck, the head of the Harvest Order. He almost immediately attacks Steve, so Steve must kill him.
What the fuck is up, Kyle?
Face to face one last time with the Sergeant-at-Arms. Check out this reveal. It's Stephanie. She's alive. But she's hooked up to a torture device. Stephanie is released from it, and then they both get an explanation as to what the devil is going on. It's revealed that the Harvest is a virtual reality simulation, to which both Steve and Stephanie are hooked up. The simulation is designed to create serial killers, and Steve is the current subject.
Oh my god!
Steve is then given an ultimatum. Marry and live out a happy life with Stephanie in this virtual reality, or kill Stephanie and be released back into the real world as a serial killer. It's now up to the player to decide. If the player chooses to kill Stephanie, then, well, he kills her in the game and in real life.
That was neat.
And then he awakes from the simulation, and he has to hitchhike back home. They don't even give him a cab, alright? And Steve murders the driver of the car that's pulled him over. Who gave him that knife? Who knows? Once he gets back home, he plays Harvester on his computer. Oh no, a gamer. Steve's mother disapproves of the game, because violent video games always breed violence within people.
That's bullshit, Mom.
And that's how that choice ends. However, if the player chooses to spare Stephanie's life, Steve proclaims,
I'd rather die than become as twisted as you.
So the Sergeant-at-Arms then marries Steve and Stephanie right then and there, in the ballroom of doom. Steve and Stephanie have a child, and lead a quaint and happy life, eventually dying of old age and being buried next to each other in Harvest. However, outside of the simulation, Steve and Stephanie die almost instantly, and the Harvester crew get ready to create another serial killer.